if you're facing foreclosure today, you're not alone. Chances are your neighbor is too. So here's some history. How did we get here? How did all this start? Well, first of all, back in 1938, we've all heard Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. 1938, Fannie Mae began to purchase mortgages. Now we fast forward to 1977. 1977, the Community Reinvestment Act of 1977 was signed into law in October. And what that was is to address discrimination in loans made to individuals from low and moderate income neighborhoods. The people who couldn't afford homes weren't able to purchase them. And so the government said that's not fair. The CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act of 1977, mandated that all banking institutions that receive FDIC insurance be evaluated by federal banking agencies to determine if the bank offers credit in all communities that they serve. And the CRA was passed as a result of national pressure to address the deteriorating conditions of American cities, particularly the lower income and minority neighborhoods. So again, they were being banks pushed to provide mortgage loans in areas where people really could not afford to buy houses. 1991, Fannie Mae partners with home builders, lenders, consumer groups, and friends in Congress to transform Fannie Mae into the largest and most influential financial institution in the world. Now get this, Fannie Mae formed what they called a PAC, a political action committee, to make generous contributions to lawmakers in Congress. Fannie Mae took government, and still takes government subsidies, money, in order to pass the savings along to home buyers in the form of lower mortgage rates. However, it was found not too recently that it keeps at least 1/3 for itself to distribute to its executives, its shareholders, and friends in high places. One of those high places is the government. So here we have Fannie Mae being subsidized by the government. They are being subsidized by the government in order to provide low mortgage rates to those who need it, and instead they're pocketing that money and distributing that money to people that will help them stay in business, i.e. the government. In 1992, there were some legislative changes required Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that they purchase and securitize mortgages. They were supposed to devote a percentage of their lending to support affordable housing. Affordable housing is another way of saying we're making housing cheaper for those who really probably should not be buying homes. In November 2000, Fannie Mae announced that the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD would soon require it to dedicate 50% or more of its business to low and moderate income families. That was in 2000. In 2001, Fannie Mae announced that it had acquired $10 billion in specially targeted CRA, Community Reinvestment Act loans, way ahead of schedule, and they expected that to be over $500 billion by 2010. Here's where it gets fun. In 2006, during the Bush administration, the government and some of the banking industry put a halt to a large part of the subprime loan market. Subprime loan market were loans that were given to people who really should not have been able to buy a home because they didn't have the credit, they didn't have the income. However, the loan programs pushed on the banks to allow these people to buy homes were very easy to qualify for. Well, in 2006, that came to a screeching halt. And what that did was many loan products just got eliminated. The buyer pool diminished greatly, and then housing prices started to decline. You see, it's the law of supply and demand. When you have this many buyers and this many homes, you've got buyers competing for each home, and home prices go up because you have 8 to 10 buyers per house. But when the loan programs went away and were eliminated, all of a sudden, your pool of buyers went from this many to this many. Only the people that realistically could afford to buy a house were able to get loans at that time. And what happened was, now you've got this many buyers and this many homes. So instead of having 10 buyers for every home, you've got 10 homes for every buyer. And home prices started coming down. I went from a Monday getting 5 or 6 offers on every single listed home I had to, on Wednesday, calling every homeowner to tell them, you need to drop your price, you need to drop your price, you need to drop your price. And a lot of homeowners didn't catch up with the change in time and lost out on selling their house for what they could get for it. Big changes in 2006. Now let's dispel some of the myths. Is it really the bank's fault? Now the purpose of this foreclosure prevention seminar is not only to tell you the options for avoiding foreclosure, but also to tell you the truth about what's going on, what happened, and how we should proceed. There's a radio ad on the radio, I hear it all the time. It's from an attorney group. And what they say is, and they're talking about foreclosures, they're offering loan modification help. And they're saying that banks say they want to help, I'm quoting, but didn't the banks get us into this mess? And I'm here to tell you, no, they didn't. In fact, to tell you the truth, the people that we should be blaming is us, the banks, and the government. Us, because we were out there getting loans that we couldn't afford. The banks, because they were allowing loans to go through to people who could not afford to buy a house. And the government, who was forcing the banks to do those loans. In fact, if many of the banks in certain areas did not offer those loans, they would find it very difficult to open new branches in new areas. And so the government seriously curtailed the bank if they did not follow through with offering these loans to low and moderate income families. So is it really all the bank's fault? Let's look at the bank. What is the bank's purpose? Is the bank here to help us? No. What is the bank's purpose? You're right. The bank's purpose is to make money. And they'll do anything they can to make money within the law. And the law said that they could do certain things. In fact, the government pushed them and even in some cases forced them to do certain things. And so the banks complied. And now the banks are being vilified for just doing their job, trying to make money. Let's go ahead and move on to options to avoid foreclosure.